Okay, everybody, welcome to the Woodworking Shop here at the Donald J. Smith School of Building Technology at Fanshawe College in London, Ontario, which in just a few months will celebrate their 50th anniversary here. Fantastic. Given some hard economic times over the past decade, you won't be surprised to learn, however, that London has a poverty problem. It's got the second highest working poor population in the province. 17% of Londoners are living in poverty, and 24% of all children live below the poverty line. A 2011 study found that 1 out of every 7 households in London could not afford adequate, suitable, and affordable shelter. And with a 6.3% unemployment rate and one of the lowest labor participation rates in the province, it can be tough for anyone displaced from work to stop or reverse the slide into poverty. So, joining us now to shed more light on these issues tonight, we welcome Kelly Zigner. She is the CEO of United Way, London and Middlesex. Jacqueline Thompson, Executive Director of Lifespin. Vanessa Ampman-Smith, Aboriginal Health Lead for the Southwest Local Health Integration Network. And Tracy Smith-Carrier, Assistant Professor in the School of Social Work at Western University. And how about a London, Ontario welcome for all of our guests here this evening, please. Thank you. Thank you all very much for coming here this evening. And I want to start by just putting up a graphic here which will embellish a bit on the numbers that we just showed. For example, Sheldon, let's go to this if we could. Here's poverty by the numbers in London. 1 in 12 Londoners is considered to be experiencing, quote unquote, severe poverty. And by that, we mean getting by on less than $11,000 a year if you are a single person, less than $19,000 a year if you're a single parent, or if you're a couple, that means living on less than $21,000 per year. And 1 in 12 people in the London area are on social assistance. Now, we do want to get a sense about just how bad poverty is in this area, I guess compared to other parts of the province. So, Kelly, give us your sense about how you feel things are right now.
Well, I think our economy is changing, and the face of poverty in our community is changing. As we've had more and more plant closures, the people that were once donors to organizations like United Way or supporting our community are now finding themselves in finding precarious work or not being able to find work at all. So those who were once our donors are now people who are turning to their community and to their neighbors for help themselves.
That's heartbreaking.
It is, yeah.
You see too much of this.
We do.
Tracy, how does London compare? This is your area of research. How does it compare to other parts of Ontario?
Well, I guess what you mentioned earlier about the fact that we used to be above the national average, now we're below. And that's happened over the last decade. So certainly things like, while overall, poverty has declined slightly over the last few years, since 2007, which is good for everybody, including London. But overall, in London, we're not seeing sort of the progress in the reductions of poverty as other places. So London is the second, has the second lowest rate for employment, the third lowest rate for low income, the second highest rate for social assistance use. So that gives us cause for concern, considering where we were before, where we were much higher than those national averages.
Jacqueline, we talked a bit about this last night, but that may come as a surprise to a lot of people who think of London as kind of, old money, insurance industry, a town doing fine. Not the case?
Well, a few really high incomes skews the average income. When you look at the 11,000 plus that's considered severe poverty, if you consider that folks on Ontario Works only get about 8,500 and 1 in 12 is on social assistance, the picture's a lot more dire than the averages would suggest. And London also has a very high population of social support moms, which means that they're struggling even more because of precarious work and part-time work, trying to facilitate employment around childcare and getting kids to school and activities as well.
Your group is called Lifespin.
It is.
What do you do?
Lifespin's an acronym for Low Income Family Empowerment, Social Support Parents Information Network, and we're a frontline organization that is owned and operated by the people that we serve. We serve more than 5,000 low-income families in London throughout the year. Probably, well, actually, 50% of the folks we serve are on Ontario Works. About a quarter are on disability, either provincial disability or a Canada Pension Plan disability. And the other 25% are working poor.
I guess we should just explain for a second. Ontario Works is the name of basically welfare in the province of Ontario, right?
Yes.
And the Disability Support Program, ODSP, as a lot of people call it, that's a secondary program.
For folks who are disabled and unable to work.
And therefore unable to work. How long have you been doing what you've been doing?
Well, Lifespin was formed in 1989, so we've been around for quite a while in the London area.
Can you give us, I'm sure there is no such thing as a typical story, because everybody's got their own story, but share with us something that you think might help us understand your work better.
Well, the biggest struggle is not just a lack of income, it's a lack of the quality of life. So what we've seen over time is that things have gotten more and more extreme for families. Like there's no dental care, there's no health care. No food means that the decline in their health is exacerbated. So we're seeing the long-term impacts of that now from generations of working in London with poor families. So a lot of folks, their teeth are not well, and it's getting worse. So we're going to have a very bad health in our senior population as we go forward. So we need to turn that around and start looking after the children at the beginning now.
Vanessa, I introduced you originally as being the Aboriginal Health Lead at the Southwest LHIN, the Local Health Integration Network, but that is not why you are with us today. You are not with us to sort of speak in that capacity. Mm-hmm. You're here because this is not an academic exercise for you. You have lived this, right?
That's right.
Tell us about your life.
I first want to state that my experience alone is truly inadequate in addressing the complexity of experience by all people living in poverty. I only hope to be a voice to speak to a human experience that has by and large been ignored by most people and really dehumanized people who live in poverty.
Having said that, what kind of experiences have you had?
So for me, when I was living in poverty, I felt very unsafe. I felt very vulnerable. There were periods of time in my life that the reality of living was so painful that I needed to self-medicate to escape.
How did you do that?
Well, for me, I turned to alcohol and I used drugs, and it was probably the only way that I was able to reconcile the reality that I was living. I was living in rooming houses in really tough neighborhoods. I was living in dangerous situations that I couldn't escape because I had no other place to go.
Would you describe yourself as having been addicted to drugs?
Yes. Yeah.
How'd you get off that?
Well, for me, I needed help. I had to have supports to address the mental illness, to address the addictions. And this was a really large part of the reason that I found myself living in the situation and the reality that I lived in. And it wasn't until that I was able to find support through recovery that I started to get a life back. And
okay, who supported you and how?
I found supports through informal recovery networks. I found supports through other people with lived experience. And for me, that was critical because at that point in my life, I didn't have a lot of trust in the formal system. I did not feel that there was a place for me in a lot of the services that were designed to support people with mental health and addictions. And
Is that because of your Indigenous background?
it has a lot to do with the fact that I have a history of negative experiences in informal settings. And this was certainly a barrier in why I chose not to access those services.
So when would you say your life was at its worst?
So that was just over 7 years ago. I found myself in a place where I no longer had a lot of hope. I wasn't sure that there was going to be any options for me. And I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to get myself out of the place that I was at.
You are clearly a million miles away from that experience right now.
Yes,
How do you feel?
I feel wonderful. You know, it's taken about 7 years to journey to this point. I have a family now. I have a husband. I have wonderful children. And last summer, we were able to purchase a home. And for me, this was a huge milestone in recognizing that I had come to a place where I can provide a different reality and a different life for my children. And to me, that has meant everything.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. This is a very happy story. They're obviously not all very happy stories. Kelly, how well does this city and this area do when it comes to providing the kind of support services for people who have mental health issues and so on?
I think we have a very robust social service network in London, but it's very fragmented. And as Vanessa indicated, sometimes people don't feel welcome accessing services. They don't know how to access services. And what happens is that isolation that Vanessa indicated. So people, who are living in poverty, they're faced with making impossible choices every day. And it's about survival. There's no way that they can thrive and can contribute when their very basic of needs are not met.
Tracy, again, because you've studied this, I want to put this to you. The connection between experiencing mental health challenges and being on social assistance. Is there a connection?
I'd say absolutely. We know that people in the lowest income rung tend to have, are 3 to 4 times more likely to have experiences with mental illness than the people at the top income rung. And so prolonged exposure to poverty, the stigma, the food insecurity, exposure to that, when we know that 70% of the onset of mental illness happens in childhood and adolescence. So we really do need to do a better job of protecting children, protecting adults. Otherwise, I think mental health is just going to continue to escalate.
So you can make the conclusion that if we can really chip away at the mental health problems, we can chip away at the social assistance problem at the same time.
I believe so.
You can make that connection. Okay, let me go into the audience here. Tina, the mic, if I might. Thank you very much. Nancy McQuillan is out here. Excuse me, Greg. Nancy, stand up if you would. You're the CEO of London Employment Help Centre.
Yes.
Tell us about the work you do.
Well, we kind of touch on all of these issues that the panel's been speaking about. We've been in business for 33 years. We offer employment and career counseling to individuals, but we also have an advocacy department that works with a lot of people that are in crisis. Low-income individuals, people who have been denied social assistance, who are have been cut off OW, ODSP.
Why would they be?
Very often it's a misunderstanding. Sometimes it's a language issue. Very often it's issues related to mental health.
No, we just heard about that.
And we've just heard a lot of that. And so we have a couple of paralegals who will represent them and help them resolve their basic income issues, because until those issues are resolved, nobody can effectively look for employment. So that's kind of been the foundation of our organization, and that whole department is funded by United Way, and we are ever so grateful to them
So you
for
know
that.
Kelly.
We certainly do.
You know Kelly and you like Kelly.
We do indeed.
Good. So just so I'm clear, do you help people find jobs, or do you help them get their life in order so that they can find jobs?
Both.
Both.
We
Okay.
do both. So we assist thousands of individuals every year in both departments, but really what we're finding now is that in the employment part of our organization, there are so many individuals who are suffering from mental health issues because of the severe poverty that they're in. And you've just heard from the panel that so many people in London are dealing with poverty issues. And it's just becoming worse and worse. So we are really working hard. And I think every organization in London is working hard to try and raise that bar for individuals.
Now, don't take this the wrong way, Nancy, but yours is one of the organizations we'd love to put out of business, right?
I have been working on that for
Long time.
almost 30 years.
For almost 30 years.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, we talked about this last night on the program. We're going to hear more about it today. There are pockets of London where there's a lot of hopelessness right now. And you're, of course, I guess, in the business of giving people hope that they've got a future.
Yes.
How's business?
Well, unfortunately, business is booming, but I have to say that one of the things that we do, and we do very well, is we give people hope, and we are able to get people employed. And I'm going to be very honest in saying that not all the jobs are good jobs, but it is a step towards a better job. So they may not get their A job right away, but they do find employment, and employment gives one dignity.
Right. What percentage of people do you think you can place in some kind of job?
Well, I can tell you right away that 71% of the people that we work with do find employment. And that's a fairly good statistic right now. I would also say that 98, almost 99% of the people that we work with in our advocacy division are successful in getting their advocacy issues resolved. So very high number of people are successfully assisted.
Thanks for filling us in, Nancy. Appreciate it very
No
much.
problem. Thank
All right,
you.
good. Nancy McQuillan from the London Health Employment Centre. Thanks, Tina. Okay. I would like to get a better sense about how, we heard last night, and I'm sure we'll hear again today, the fact that those great jobs that used to exist that paid $35 an hour at a wonderful, robust manufacturing plant, and there was a pension and there were benefits and all of that, those jobs are really disappearing everywhere in the world, but here in London as well. And now we have this new thing called precarious work. So, Tracy, let's start with you again on this. What's the relationship between precarious work and poverty?
There's a very good relationship. We know that 70% of the people that are living in low income are actually working. That's
Say that again. 7 out of 10 people
yes, are working.
Are working and still in poverty.
Multiple jobs trying to feed their families. This has become more of the new normal. This is the job churning, moving from job to job to job, and in between, cycling through social assistance and onto a new job, and that seasonal job ends and moving on to another job. That's becoming more of the normal.
You seeing this too, Kelly?
Yeah, and it creates lots of problems for families as well as they're dealing with precarious work. So you consider a parent who's working 2 or 3 jobs just to be able to survive and provide for their children. They're not home to be with their children. So after school, where are those kids? What are they doing? And that's where United Way funded programs like after school programs become a critical part in ensuring that there's safe and appropriate childcare or recreational opportunities for kids.
Jacqueline, if somebody's working 2 or 3 jobs, give us a sense about what that looks like.
Well, it's really difficult because in order to access the community services that might assist you, you have to often stand in lines and try to get through to community service agencies that you just cannot access. Plus, you're trying to work 2 or 3 jobs and travel from childcare provider to childcare provider, find late night, overnight childcare if you are working in the evenings. So your whole life is just going from one thing to another. There's no family time, there's no downtime, there's no sitting around the family dinner table. All the things that you would think of doing in your home just don't happen for low-income
make up a
families.
life.
And you might not even have heat on in your home. So, or you might not have a stove to cook on. Your whole life is just trying to deal with the basic needs to get to the next spot.
Vanessa, was this a part of your background at all?
Absolutely. There was a period of time when the type of housing I lived in was inadequate, and I went without hydro for a whole winter, and I didn't have a place to keep my food. I didn't have a place to cook my food. I didn't have hot water to shower in. And, like I said, life was painful and difficult and stressful at that time. And my thoughts weren't about looking at how, as an Indigenous person who is passionate about supporting my community, I could get up and do that job. My job was just about surviving.
Kelly, I want to ask you about something that Ontario is in the throes of sort of figuring out at the moment, and that is a pilot program of a sort of guaranteed annual income or a basic floor, a basic amount of money that people would be transferred in order to live on. This has been debated for years and years, decades. What's your view on how well that might work to alleviate some of the issues we're talking about tonight?
Well, when you talk about poverty, at the very root of it, it's people don't have enough to survive, let alone to be able to contribute or to have a meaningful sort of existence in our community. And if you can remove that barrier through something like basic income and living wage, those are opportunities for people to, actually be more resilient, to be able to participate in their community and have a quality of life that they wouldn't otherwise have. And Tracy's done a lot of work in this area in terms of research.
Tracy, you know that the knock on this program, as I've understood it over the years, is that if you just hand somebody, let's say 10 grand a year, here's your basic income, you don't have to do anything for it. The argument is it saps them of any incentive to sort of get out there and find a better job. What do the facts say?
So, yeah, that's not the case, though. There has been a lot of work in this area, mainly from different kinds of basic income. Around the world, conditional cash transfers or unconditional cash transfers have been going on for years now. And the evidence is quite clear that they are very, very helpful in helping people work, meet their basic needs, get the education and training that they need. So it actually goes against that whole notion of this work disincentive that a lot of people seem to be afraid about.
Well, the first pilot program was, I think, 40 years ago in Manitoba. They
Yes.
called it Mincome.
That's right. And they did find a slight decrease, but the decrease was related to the fact that people actually went back to school. So if that is the problem, then I say that's a problem to have, because that's what we want, right? So yeah, there was a slight decrease, but Evelyn Forget was able to capture the dynamics of that and how people were actually going back to school, getting educated to go get jobs later.
But my point is, if every time somebody has done some research showing that this is a potential solution to the issues we're talking about here, why has there been so little political leadership over the years to implement this?
I would say that we actually have implemented it, that we actually have basic income architecture already within our existing constellation of income security programs. So for example, seniors. In the 1960s and 70s, we introduced a number of different income security programs for seniors. And in the 70s, we saw our poverty level for seniors go from almost 40% down to 1995, 4%. We almost eliminated poverty for the senior population by introducing a basic income. So we know it works. I almost sort of am a bit skeptical of the need to actually start another pilot, because I know that it's been working around the world and it has been shown to work in Canada.
Yeah, we've got the seniors plan. We have a basic child
We do it for
grant
the
as
child
well.
benefits as well.
Yeah.
So we should be equitable and ensure that an income floor is provided for all of our members of society.
Jacqueline, you sold on this idea?
The biggest issue that we have with poverty in London is the housing. So there's a differential for the income coming in for housing. So that's one of the things that London doesn't do very well. We have lots of administration systems for providing housing, but not a whole lot of housing. So we need to deal with that. The average cost of housing is much higher than people have for shelter amounts. So you have to provide either housing subsidies along with the income subsidies, or you're still not dealing with the issue because of the cost of housing and heating housing in Canada.
Vanessa, what's your view on a guaranteed annual income or a basic income?
I think for me, as a person with lived experience, this is a step in the right direction. To me, this is important because it involves a systemic approach in addressing poverty. And, it really recognizes that poverty is not an individual issue, that this is really an issue that needs to be addressed collectively by the communities, by the municipality, and really taken on by industry and by organizations and sectors.
When you're poor and hopeless, do you feel all alone?
Yes. I think in my situation, I was physically alone, but I also had experienced what I believe was, this learned helplessness where I didn't think that I had any options. I felt isolated, and I really didn't feel worthy as a person to have the same opportunities that were afforded to others.
Kelly, obviously there are people all over Ontario, all over the country who are watching this and may want to sort of learn about your experience and how they can apply it to their communities. What's some advice you might give them?
I think it's just paying attention to the issue, right? And ensuring that you know what's going on in your community, you know what the challenges are, and then taking a stand and advocating for, programs, whether it be basic income or issues related to race or challenges that you're having, and providing a voice and a forum for those issues to be understood. Because I think that advocacy part is a big part in sort of solving those larger systemic issues. Yes, contributing to organizations that are addressing those issues, it's one part of it, but also having your voice heard.
Jacqueline, do you think the corner can be turned on this?
We keep trying. It's going to be a long haul. If we don't deal with it, then people aren't going to have the incomes to buy the products that create the jobs. So you can either take it way back and deal with it systemically, or you're going to be dealing with it one person at a time, and that problem's not going away.
Gotcha. I want to thank you all for getting our program started so wonderfully here this evening. Our guests, Tracy Smith-Carrier, Assistant Professor in the School of Social Work at Western University; Jacqueline Thompson, Executive Director of LifeSpin; Vanessa Ampman-Smith, Aboriginal Health Lead for the Southwest Local Health Integration Network; Kelly Ziegner, CEO, United Way, London and Middlesex. How about a round of applause for this group of people here tonight? Thank you.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.